But what it's become over the last few years is for the most minor of infractions, where neither the crowd or the players themselves can really read into it, and nor do they ever have to explain it, what that 6 again penalty is. There are way too many of them.
Hello, welcome to Six Tackles with Gus. Great to be with you for another week, and we're here thanks to the Tab. Plenty to look at in the wonderful world of rugby league. Goodness, there's some big news stories floating around, and the footy's been fantastic. We're looking at round 4 today. Daly Cherry Evans, what a bombshell. Set to leave Manly at season's end, although the club are wrestling to try to keep him there. Is it time to peel back the 6 again? We've got some damning stats. They're handing them out like Skittles, as Gus would say. It's a funny game, rugby league, and a story this week that I never thought that I would read. Plus Ask Gus and a preview of the upcoming round. Welcome, Phil Gould.
Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
Fantastic. You well?
I'm excellent.
You look good. You look fresh.
Yep, ready to go.
Winning makes everything better, doesn't it? That was a good game on Sunday.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Tough win.
They were tough, Parramatta. They really were. Much improved in defence, which you'd expect them to be. And, always say in the first 6 weeks, everyone will win one and everyone will lose one. Their win is coming.
Yeah, the Dolphins need a win.
Yeah, it'll come.
We'll have a look at round 4 coming up, some team news as well to bring you. But the Cherry Evans story has certainly stolen the limelight right throughout this week. We'll go into detail, but were you... So you had him locked in to do 100% footy on Monday, like a couple of weeks ago, and it all broke in the afternoon.
Yeah, it did. Danny Weidler was obviously been chasing that story for some time, and he broke the news on Channel 9 News on Monday evening, and as luck would have it, we had him on 100% footy on Monday night. It was a bizarre couple of hours as people tried to catch up with the story, but in the end it came out of the man's mouth himself, exactly where he stood with his career. We'll talk about it shortly, but it didn't come as a surprise, I've got to be honest, because there had been rumblings about this some time ago. But, big news this week for the Manly Club and the rest of the competition, actually.
Maybe there's a new reality show in the offing. You could just make your offers to your players on a television show.
On the TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to do the live auction. Put everyone on a live auction. Put everyone off contract, auction them off.
That sounds like a draft. They wouldn't get through, would it?
No. Dear, oh, dear, oh.
So no Latrell Mitchell. It was supposed to be the end of South Sydney's hopes this year, with Cam Murray out as well, I suppose. But young Jye Gray continues to impress. And my question to you, Gus, is, even when Latrell's back and they're saying next week, round 5, Jye Gray's got to stay in the 17 somewhere.
Well, he's earned his position, and he's a typical Wayne Bennett type player. He's all effort. He's 100% all in. He's a team player. High energy. He makes things happen. He scores tries. He saves tries. He creates opportunities. He takes advantage of the skills of those in his team. That's what you want from a player like him. Now, Latrell Mitchell's one of the premier fullbacks in the game, and I've got no doubt that when he comes back, he will resume in that position, if to start with. But I'm quite sure that Wayne Bennett will be keeping Jye Gray in the 17 somewhere. He would be a nightmare coming off the bench for rival coaches. You'd be constantly looking at the bench and the interchange numbers to see when he was going to enter the action, because him coming on at when your players are a little bit tired and fatigued would be a nightmare. What a wholehearted player. You know, obviously we've seen him coming on the horizons for some years. He's been in the lower grades in junior rep football and got no fear whatsoever.
He's only a little fella, isn't he?
He's only little, but he's very, very quick, and he's very, very brave. And he's very good. Like, he's got great football instincts. He's got great football IQ. And he's been wonderful for South Sydney. He's a Wayne Bennett type player.
Could he play dummy half?
Yeah, well, I've got no doubt he could. Do you want him in the middle of the field doing all that tackling? Probably not.
That's my question. If he was to go to the bench, if he could come on and play as an attacking dummy half, he would give opposition coaches terrors, wouldn't he?
He would, but you'd probably bring him on at fullback and maybe push Latrell up to centre or something, rather, to give him a spell during games rather than having off the field. So it'll be interesting how Wayne Bennett does that. A lot will depend on how well Latrell comes back, and from all reports he's very fit and looking raring to go, which I would imagine every player is under Wayne Bennett. So it's good for the Rabbitohs. They've got some nice depth there emerging.
From last Thursday's game in Melbourne, despite losing, the Panthers will come away more pleased than the Storm.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. And from all reports, Craig Bellamy was very disappointed in a number of aspects of the Melbourne Storm game. What the Panthers did was quite extraordinary, going into the game under strength and then losing Nathan Cleary after 7 minutes. Now, that's worse than losing Nathan Cleary Tuesday night and getting a couple of training sessions to formulate your game and your structure without the great playmaker. But to actually lose him early in the game as they did and then to regroup just shows to the quality of the development system at Panthers and how kids come through the system and how they learn their trade and how they're very confident when they come to NRL. They're all NRL players, and I thought they did an extraordinary job. And again, their competitiveness, their composure, their never give in attitude, which is crouched right through the grades, right from the time they enter the club, really came to the fore. And you're matching it with the premiership favourites and the best team in the competition right at this moment. Well, people are saying that Melbourne Storm are the best team in the competition, despite the fact Panthers are 4-time premiership winners. And what it showed me again in that game was that Penrith at full strength are still the team to beat in this competition, and they're still the team for the Melbourne Storm to beat in this competition. I think that Melbourne winning that game, was one thing, but Craig Bellamy was disappointed, and I think the Panthers would take a lot out of that performance. They've got to get through the season injury free, of course, and they've got their challenges. They've had some changes to their team, but tremendous spirited performance, as you would expect from them. Always say champion boxers lose their title in the ring. I can only imagine that Panthers, if they lose this title, will lose it in the grand final. You'll have to beat them to win it.
I reckon they've got to fight tomorrow night, but we'll have a look at that.
Well, they've got to fight every week because everyone lifts. And, they are a little vulnerable. There's no risk they're a little vulnerable at the moment. But they've been in this position before. And, younger players come in and they just keep emerging. They've got the system. They've got the mentality. They've got the belief in their system. They've got the defence. I think that as the season wears on and this new combinations become more and more adept with each other, and obviously they need to keep Cleary, they need to get Dylan Edwards back on the field. That's a must. But they've still got 4 or 5 of the best players in the world in their key positions, and they showed Melbourne and they showed the rest of the competition this is more than just a one-horse race.
He plays Toolung, he played well.
Good player, good kid. Yeah, and he'll thrive out there. He really will. He'll thrive on the professionalism and the competitiveness and the connectivity of all the players out there. They're all in it together. That you can see that the last time that a kid debuted for Panthers and didn't look like an NRL player straight away, I can't remember. You never see them bring in a dud, ever. When they've been through the system, it's a great filtering system. They're ready to play NRL. And even players that leave the club for more opportunity and come back, like Thomas Jenkins has left the club for more opportunity to come back. Dane Laurie left the club for more opportunity. His pathway was blocked and he comes back. And there'll be others too that have left the club that will eventually find their way back to Panthers because Panthers will trust what their development was and that they know the system. So, they're still the team to beat.
I'm going to give you some numbers before I ask you the question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Last weekend,
in
every game, 6 agains and penalties combined. Storm Panthers, 10 6 agains, 14 penalties, 24 interventions by the ref. Warriors Roosters, I don't know what happened here, 4 6 agains, 6 penalties. Broncos Cowboys, 12 6 agains, 10 penalties. Sharks Rabbitohs, 2 6 agains, 11 penalties. Dolphins Tigers, 7 6 agains, 16 penalties. I called this game Titans Knights for radio at 2GB on the continuous call team last Saturday night, and it was an absolute dog's breakfast. 8 6 agains and 18 penalties. Eels Bulldogs, 6 6 agains, 11 penalties. Manly Raiders, 8 6 agains, 14 penalties. They're blowing the pee out of it. My question is, Gus, it's time to strip back the 6 again.
Well, I've been saying it for years. They hand them out like Smarties. What's happened with the 6 again? It's become a different level of penalty.
It has. That's a great way of putting it.
It's become a different level of not what they were trying to do with the 6 against was to keep the game moving and keep the game moving with momentum. Yes. All right. The 6 again was a territorial decision. It was not an infringement decision. All of a sudden, we didn't give 6 again just because it was a minor infraction. All right. It was replacing the normal penalty that either would have cost a team a game with a penalty kick, a goal, or would have stopped the action. We're trying to keep it moving. And it had to be a deterrent to teams to repeatedly giving away penalties because fatigue factor just wears you down, and it does. But what it's become over the last few years is for the most minor of infractions, where neither the crowd or the players themselves can really read into it, and nor do they ever have to explain it, what that 6 again penalty is. There are way too many of them. But, you know me, I'm old-fashioned, and I say this about the whole game. There are too many penalties, there are too many 6 agains, there are too many sin bins, there are too much players getting fined, there are too many players getting charged and suspended. We overreact to everything. We really overreact to it. The game is hard enough as it is without this strenuous scrutiny from the officialdom of the game in, I don't know what it is they're looking for or what they think this game is supposed to be. I really don't. But the 6 again penalty has become a new level of penalty.
That's such a good way of putting it. Because you're right.
It's an add-in. It's not instead of. It's an add-in.
That's not quite bad enough for a penalty, but I will give a 6.
But I'll give it anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's where it's got to. It's become for a minor thing that in the normal running of game and referees back in the days, it was kind of, I can let that slide, and I'll let that slide for both sides. All right, but the standard is no, I won't accept that. That's a penalty. I won't accept that. That's a penalty. All right, now that's the one that you give the 6 again because it's territorial. You give them 6 again on the line, and and some of them, like we don't want some penalties deciding games. All right, the penalty doesn't warrant that. The problem with our game was our penalties used to be a loss of territory and an addition to the salary cap, and could even mean points. Like there was an unfairness sometimes about where the penalties were given or how they were given, at what stage of the game they were given, which was a frustration to a lot of people, players, coaches, fans, everybody. So the 6 again thing was to keep the ball in play longer. When you go to the football, when are the crowds cheering most? When do crowds cheer most? They cheer most when some team is attacking the line and defending the line. Mm-hmm. That's when the crowds are cheering most. That's what they were trying to create. They were trying to create more attacking football and crowd getting involved in the action. And 6 agains were a way of keeping the play moving and keeping the ball in play, all right, and not having teams bog down and deliberately give away a penalty to stop the game and reset their defence and go again. The 6 again was to stop you resetting your defence and stop. That's what it was for. And it was a great experiment, and I was all for it. The problem is the referees are not accountable for that, and the types of infringements that are drawing those types of penalties are, in a lot of cases, very pedantic and unnecessary. And then what happens is you get the case like with the Raiders the other night where Corey Horsburgh is sent to the sin bin. Yeah. All right? I would assume not for the offence that he committed, but for repeated infringements by the team. And in that 10-minute period, what happened? Yeah. There were 4 tries. It's such a big penalty to get a sin bin. And it's such a big penalty to send a player off that hasn't been involved in all the repeated infringements, right? It's a team penalty because I've just got sick of blowing 6 agains. Well, you're the one with the whistle. You're the one waving your arm. A lot of those are unnecessary. They're very minor infractions that would not normally draw a penalty under normal circumstances.
Yes. And it could be fixed by the referees or the people running the referees saying you only give a 6 again when you be prepared to give a penalty.
I've said this for 20 years. Our referees are overcoached and our game is over-refereed. Right? And there is nothing to change my mind. I think the referees do a really good job under the circumstances. I think the coaches and players do an outstanding job under the circumstances. With match review the way it is and penalties the way it is and 6 again the way it is and everyone trying to keep the ball in play, the fatigue factor, the strength and fitness of these players and the collisions. I mean, I think our players and coaches do a wonderful job, but you can feel the frustration in the players and the coaches at the officiating sometimes. And let me tell you, the referees feel it too. The referees feel the frustration and the penalty. I don't think a lot of them want to be doing this. I don't think that they think it's right either. I think they could manage the game a hell of a lot better than in constantly giving away 6 agains and penalties. That's not how you manage football games. And I think that our referees are far more capable than what their coaching or their instruction is. And that's my view on it, and it always has been.
The last point I wanted to make on this, most of the six agains, I'd say most of the six agains are when there's a team defending their line and they use the six again to advantage because they'll lie all over the bloke, six again, then they'll do it again on the next tackle, and it gives their defensive line ample time to get organised because they know they're not going to give away a penalty. It's just going to be a set restart.
Yep.
So, in fact, the six again's actually in those situations, it's encouraging the defensive team to infringe because there's no real penalty against it.
The answer's a pineapple to all of that, but the constant blowing of six agains, some of them for very minor infractions. I don't. If there are 20 penalties in the game, there are 20 penalties in the game. If there are 30 penalties in the game, there are 30 penalties in the game. But I think we have a new level of penalty for the very minor incidental thing, which I think doesn't need to be blown a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think the minor infractions, the speed of our game is not a stop-start game. It's not like the NFL where they stop it after every play, reset and go again, where everything is perfect. Everything is not perfect. Everything is not perfect in our game. All right? But the players are working hard to do their job. The referees are working hard to do their job. It's not going to be perfect all the time, and the game is far much better if you let it flow. What happens when we get to Origin and what happens when we get to finals? Referees put the whistle in their pocket, and what happens to the quality of the game? What happens to the enjoyment of the fans? They're better games. The enjoyment's far greater. People love it when the referee, is seen but not heard. That's just a fact of our game. It's far better with less penalties.
DCE could be a good fit for the Dogs.
Well, let's make it DCE could be a good fit for anywhere.
Oh, I changed the question now.
Yeah. That's a little unfair. Extraordinary story, and I guess that's a lead into what the major story is this week, is Daly Cherry Evans deciding that his time with the Manly Sea Eagles is over. From what I could take of his conversation we had with him on Monday night, and I thought he handled himself brilliantly. Let me say the first thing about this, the first and second thing. Firstly, how brilliantly he handled himself in the interview and how brilliantly he's handled himself elsewhere. And secondly, and I said it on Monday night on 100% footy, this is a very mature and professional decision by Daly Cherry Evans. What he's done is seen that there has been some conjecture about his future in the media. He doesn't want it to affect his teammates. He doesn't want it to affect him. He doesn't want it to affect his club. And he has turned around and given his club full clarity and full notice that he is not going around with Manly next year. He's made that decision. For whatever reason, I don't know. Whether he's articulated the real reasons, I don't know. We can read into that what they will, and media will do that. But he seems very content in his decision. He seems very comfortable in his decision. I also 100% believe him that he's unsure what the future actually holds. He's very comfortable with it, obviously at this stage of his career, and I thought it was a very professionally handled and very professional decision and a very considerate position that a player of long-standing nature and the quality that he is and the standing he has in the game to come out and to give his club all this notice. I think it's great for Manly. It's disappointing for Manly that he's not going to be there, and I guess there'll be fans that are disappointed. And the club will be going, gee, how are we ever going to replace Daly Cherry Evans? Well, that day was going to come anyway, eventually, but they're in good position to do it. But they've got plenty of time now to get themselves sorted and what they're going to do into the future. Daly Cherry Evans is saying that he won't know till the end of the season whether or not he plays again next year. He would like to play again next year. He loves playing the game. He feels as though he can continue. But, there's another 20-odd rounds to go yet in this season, plus finals and whatever happens there. And he's 36 years of age. I mean, it's been an extraordinary career. He may or may not get to the end of the season and say, you know what, that's enough. I've had enough. I'm going to finish. Or I want to go around again. Now, there'll be conjecture that you wouldn't walk out of a Manly deal like this or the Manly club unless you already had something in place. I don't believe that to be the case. I think he's very, very genuine in that he has not got a deal for next year anywhere, and that he is not even going to consider his future beyond this year. What he wants to do is give 100% to his final year with Manly, a team that he believes can go deep into the finals and challenge for a premiership, and he wants to be a part of that. If they were to win the premiership this year with Daly Cherry Evans, what a wonderful way to go out with Manly or even his career if that's what he decided to do. Does he have the ability to keep playing for a couple of years? Well, that's Cherry's decision. That's Daly Cherry Evans' decision. He will know better than anybody to do that. On the surface, looking in, it looks like he's certainly got 2 more years in him. He doesn't look his age in any way, shape.
He's that young. He looks that young. Looks like he's had Botox.
Extraordinary. His fitness levels and his constitution for work and his speed. And in this extraordinary career and this extraordinary run of football, he's missed so few games.
He has.
In all that time. He's very rarely injured, and if he is, he's very rarely out for much time at all. Now, was it a shock? No, I've got to be brutally honest, because there were rumblings about this late last season. And I think there were even some mild media references at the end of last year in the off-season around Manly considering a switch for Turbo to go to 5'8".
Yeah, now that makes sense.
And Hopewadi and Cooler maybe being the future of the fullback, and Manly preparing for life after Daly Cherry Evans. And, there were rumblings, and there was even a period there where people were saying he was going to be offered up for 2025, which none of us believed, and we just put it down as scuttlebutt, and no one took any notice of it. Now, Daly actually referred the other night on Monday night that there were no offers coming to him in December, so maybe his management did search around to see what options there were. Maybe he got wind of the fact that maybe Manly were thinking like this, but there was certainly smoke there. Now, I'm not saying it emanated from within the Manly club or wherever, but there was certainly smoke around that time of a change of position for Tom Trbojevic and maybe Daly Cherry Evans moving on. Now, whether Daly got wind of that, whether or not that was accurate, whether or not it was total scuttlebutt, I have no idea. But now in hindsight, with this decision, maybe there was a little bit of truth to that. Maybe that's one of the factors that Daly's taken into account when considering his future going forward. Given that, when his management approached Manly late last year about whether or not they'd be extending him beyond 2025 and whether or not Daly Cherry Evans instigated that, managers are talking to clubs all the time, even without the knowledge of their players sometimes. What's the future look like? He's got a year to go. Are we talking about life after football? Are we talking about career after football? Are we talking more time playing? Where do you stand on this? Those conversations could have taken place. I don't know. I really don't know. So, but that is a common conversation, and maybe that conversation, maybe that conversation wasn't pleasing the management all that much. Maybe it wasn't pleasing Daly all that much. Maybe that's what started the thoughts in his head. Well, do I have to consider playing somewhere else if I want to keep playing? Do Manly really want me to stay? Now, there's obviously been a panicked response this week from Manly, and they've jumped in and tried now to make up that they'd like to keep him for a couple of years. And
well, can I ask you about that? So, as an outsider, with respect to the machinations of player movements, etc., he's the game's record holder at Manly. Nobody has played for the club more.
No.
I find it hard to quantify that the club has said to him, "We're not making you an offer." One, and we won't be making you an offer unless another club does. What? How does
that seems strange to me too?
What is that?
Yeah, that seems strange to me.
And then why can they come forward now with a revised offer that? Apparently, if
that's the confusing part, right. But that's where the smoke was before Christmas. I'm telling you, late last year, I don't know what was coming out of the Manly club or from somewhere else, but late last season, I'm trying to remember when it was.
Yeah, I remember.
Late last season, I actually got a call about Daly Cherry Evans. I said, "What are you talking about? Why would Daly Cherry Evans be leaving Manly? I mean, why would Manly be letting Manly?" I didn't even consider it. I gave it nothing. And it just washed away, which I expected it to do. And I'd imagine I wasn't the only one that was called during that time. I imagine
you spoke?
Other clubs were sounded out. Now, someone rang me and said they'd heard that this was this was being discussed. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I never followed it through. I never thought about it. I just thought, well, that's just media scuttlebutt, or someone's creating rumours, or, maybe they're trying, someone in the media's maybe come up with a solution to Tom Trebojevic's injuries problems, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the media put a lot of these things in place and then quote them back as rumours themselves. So, you ignore 99% of what goes on in our game. You just learn to ignore it. And I ignored this.
Yeah.
I ignored suggestions that Tom Trbojevic would play 5'8" and Daly Cherry Evans and Luke Brooks would play halfback and Daly Cherry Evans would retire or be moved from the club. But that was the scuttlebutt. There were stories along that line late last season. Now, whether that instigated the conversations that came, whether that was true or not, I don't know, whether that was just people making it up. But now you look back at that and I go, well, okay.
Well, it actually looks like the club's tried to push him out.
Well, I don't know about that. They've certainly gone into damage control this week.
But for them to not make an offer and all the weird circumstances around that, it's almost like it's untenable for him to stay.
Well, in the last couple of weeks there's been scuttlebutt. And this is where the media frustrates us in the game. We've learned to live with it, but the public get fooled by all this stuff. There were stories around in the last couple of weeks he'd been lowballed and offered $600,000, all right? Now, Daly Cherry Evans confirmed that is absolute rubbish. That never happened. That never happened. But that was a story that was rumbling around in the media. People were quoting that figure for the last couple of weeks. And that's why we treat the media sometimes with such disdain, because someone's made that up somewhere along the line. Daly Cherry Evans has confirmed that never happened.
No, but it's worse. He wasn't given an offer at all.
Well, Daly Cherry Evans said he told the club last December. Last December he told them. They've all been living in the knowledge of this for some time. He told them last December, this will be my last year at Manly. That's what he told us the other night on 100% Footy.
Yeah, but he did say that. But he
did say that. And what happened was the story started to regurgitate a little bit now. Obviously, he's off contract at the end of the year. The media start following up on this. What are you doing with Daly Cherry Evans, et cetera. And he said, you know what, I want to nip this in the bud. I've already told Manly. I'm already comfortable with that decision. I've made that decision. He's saying he made this decision back in December. He said he told the club back in December, this will be my last year with Manly.
But he would have had to have had a reason to make that decision in December. Something would have pushed him into that decision.
You would assume so.
Yeah.
You would assume so.
Can you understand why Manly wouldn't want him, if that's the case?
No.
It's just odd.
No.
Like, he's the Queensland captain.
No. Other than salary cap management, other younger players merging.
Are there?
Maybe they think Daly Cherry Evans is at the end of his career. The clubs have got very, very big decisions to make sometimes at the back end of players' careers, and managing the exit of a star player or a long-serving player, and certainly players not at the profile of Daly Cherry Evans, is a delicate task, for all clubs and all club management at different times. Salary cap management is and I'm just saying these are the scenarios that you will face. But Daly Cherry Evans, a long-serving player who's been so extraordinary for them and has such a profile in the game, I can't imagine anyone at Manly would be thinking that they would be pushing him out of the club or that they would be happy for him to go and play somewhere else. I don't think that could ever be the case. And that's why I ignored the rumours last year. I totally ignored them. And I think I was right. I don't know whether that's happened or not. And I'm sure Manly would deny it. But there was definitely
absolutely.
There were definitely ripples around in the rumour category of, and I think there were even articles written about Tom Trbojevic and a positional change.
There were.
Now, if Tom Trbojevic was going to have the positional change and Luke Brooks was on contract for longer, it was assumed that Luke would play halfback and Tom would play 5'8", and they had ready-made fullbacks there ready to go. All right, well, maybe they're planning for life after Daly Cherry Evans. Mainly Daly Cherry Evans has given them time, an indication he's going to retire.
The assumption with those articles was that he was going to retire.
And he's going to retire anyway. You can't keep going forever. But, this is where we are now. Daly Cherry Evans is saying, well, I'll give Manly clarity. I'm done. I'm not playing with Manly anymore. Whether he plays on or yet, that decision hasn't been made. And that's the conundrum for all the other clubs in the competition, because would Daly Cherry Evans fit in at any club? He would fit in any club. He's elite, origin class, one of the best playmakers in the game, one of the best playmakers in history, and he's clearly got more football left in him, clearly.
He'll play.
If he wants to play.
He'll play.
Does he want to play against Manly? Well, he's considered that. Hasn't made a decision yet, but he's considered that might happen. There's a fair bit to play out here. He's still got a long season to get through this year. All right?
Yeah.
He's got to get to the back end of this year and see how that goes. Now, That's the conundrum for all the other clubs who might be interested in him. Because Daly Cherry Evans, for them to consider whether or not he would be right for their roster now, and he would be for any roster, they've got to keep a spot open and they've got to keep money available, right? And if he leaves his decision until the end of the season, which is October, and you hold on that long keeping a spot open and keeping the money available and you miss him, you are left in the lurch. You've also got your own players currently in your club playing in those positions that'll be wondering about their future and wondering about their contract status and do you re-sign them, do you extend their contracts, do you upgrade them, whatever you want to do from there. So they've got to put that, if they hope to sign a Daly Cherry Evans and hope that he makes a decision at the end of the year he's going to play on, and then they hope they can attract him to their club, whichever club that might be, that they've got to wait a long time for that to happen, according to Daly Cherry Evans. Daly Cherry Evans is not going to make a decision until October, which means those clubs that want him have got to hold a position open and hold the money available until October, which means they may miss out on other opportunities leading forward, and it leaves them in a little bit of state of flux. So Manly's got clarity. Manly now knows he's not going to be there. Manly's got clarity. They can move on. They've got money to...
Actually, they haven't conceded he's not going to be there.
That's publicly. I think that's just damage control.
Well,
to be honest, it looked like a really rushed damage control type situation. It was kind of like, we're doing all we can.
Very, very weird.
I think it just escalated on them very quickly. I think they thought they had 12 months to deal with this, but according to Daly Cherry Evans, he told them in December.
Well, they've utterly bungled it because of his status at the club. He's not some fly-by-nighter. This is your probably the most decorated halfback in the history of the club.
Well, remember too, Daly Cherry Evans went to great pains to say that there is no animosity, there is no ill feeling, that there have been cordial conversations all the way through it, that he's been dealing with the club all the way through this. And I guess he said naively, I hoped this would never ever be made public until the season was over. He said, I probably naively thought that I could get through the season and make a decision in the off-season about my future. But I said to him, well, the media doesn't work like that. And he said, yeah, 100% right. And with all the inquiries of the club and the pressure on the club, pressure on other players in the club developing through, the club's salary cap and recruitment going forward, it's a big thing for a player like this to retire, let alone the prospect of him moving to another club and you having to replace him next year. Manly always knew they had to replace him in the future anyway.
Yeah. Just lastly on this one, there is precedent at the Roosters with Cooper Cronk coming in. They moved Mitchell Pearce. Cronk was in the last couple of years of his career. They won 2 comps.
Yep.
And they're the club that seems to have the war chest available. The only caveat I'd put on it is what you've been saying, that they have a genuine need to try to bring their younger players through and blood them at NRL level. Plus, they have Sam Walker, who'd have to probably move to 5'8".
They've invested long-term in Sam Walker. I think every club, I don't think any club ever thought Daly Cherry Evans would be on the market to come to their club, all right? It's now obvious that's a possibility. You're not going to know for sure, and according to Daly Cherry Evans, until September, October, until Manly's season's over. Then he'll make a decision if he's going to play. So for most clubs, whilst it's a tempting thought, you've probably got to put it out of your mind until Daly Cherry Evans actually declares, I'm ready to make a decision on that. I think every club in the league would be thinking, gee whiz, if he became available, how do we fit him in and what role does that play both in the short-term and longer-term development of our roster?
Do you actually think he's going to wait till October?
Well, he said he is. What I do know, he's earned the right to decide whenever he likes. He's earned the right to make this decision. He's earned the right to decide whenever he likes. It's not going to be easy for those that might contemplate signing him, those are hanging out, well, maybe, we'll wait to see if Daly... I think every club in the league would think, gee whiz, if he became available, how could we fit him in? What would it cost? What would the salary cap value him at? What would, is his motivation money, or is his motivation winning a premiership? Is his motivation just purely playing? Is his motivation lifestyle and where he lives and location? These are all things that Daly Cherry Evans hasn't articulated yet. All he has said is, I've played my last year at Manly and I want to play a year knowing it's my last year at Manly. He's going to do that. So right at the moment, the Manly Club and the rest of the league should be celebrating Daly Cherry Evans, an extraordinary performer, a one-club player so far in his career, playing out his last season with his club. And he will forever be a Manly Sea Eagle, forever, regardless of where he goes or what he does in the future.
Just lastly, you've said he'd be a fit.
There were even reports some time ago he might go and play for New York. Remember that? Someone was opening a franchise in New York.
New York?
There were newspaper articles about him 2 years ago.
They had a team in New York.
Yeah, well, they do. But, there's always been that little faint rumbling, which you just ignore as media scuttlebutt and rumour, and I don't deal in rumours, so I just ignored it all. Now I think back and go, gee whiz, was there any truth to any of that? Has any of that played a part in what he's decided? He's an extremely valuable, creditable, the way he presented himself the other night, he's one of the ornaments to the game. I can remember early in his career, I remember Daly Cherry Evans didn't debut till he was 22. He wasn't a teenage sensation by any stretch. He didn't debut till he was 22. And I think around after a couple of years, Manly won a comp or he played in an Origin series, and I said, we're about to enter the Daly Cherry Evans decade. He will be one of the prominent influences in the game over the next decade, and to a large part he has. But I would say that was 12 years ago. So we've gone well past the decade, and he's probably at the moment influencing the game stronger than ever. He has ever before. There's clearly more football in him, and whether that's taken Manly by surprise or whether that's taken anyone else by surprise, whether it's taken Daly by surprise, I don't know. But he's indicated on Monday night, I want to keep playing whatever I love it and whatever my body is capable. And at the moment, I love it and my body is capable. And he's not thinking of doing anything else. All he's saying is, Manly, I'm moving on.
You've said he'd be a fit for any club. Does that mean Canterbury would have a look at him? Would you be prepared to talk to him?
Every club would consider it, but he's not available today. So you need to get on with the rest of your development and what have you.
But you'd speak to him if you wanted to talk.
Well, you're putting the water on me because you've got access to me as a club boss.
Yeah.
But I think every club would consider, if he ever made himself available to go to another club, you'd think about, okay, where does he fit in? How much football has he got left in him? What can he do for the younger players in our club, and what can he do for the education of our club? There might be clubs that think they're in a premiership window that he might make the difference for them. I think, Parramatta have obviously got an opening for a playmaker. The Raiders have been looking for these players of this ilk. I think every club, and Panthers would be a consideration for him if he was looking to win a premiership. I mean,
Penrith.
Well, they've lost their own Luai. They've got some younger blokes in there. Maybe Daly Cherry Evans fills the void for him straight away. There are any number of clubs that would think, you know what, we haven't considered this before. I don't think any of us have considered Daly Cherry Evans being an option before. He was a Manly boy. He's 36 years of age. He's going to play out his career in Manly. That's it. So it's nothing you've ever considered.
Yeah. No, it's extraordinary to think that he could play for another club.
So to say, would you consider it? Well, I'm not considering it because he hasn't said he's going to play on. If he says he's going to play on, then I think every club will look at their roster at that time and say, well, can we fit him in? But there's 6 months to go. You've got to get on with the planning. And if you hold out for that 6 months thinking, well, gee whiz, we'll hold out. If a club held out and says, well, we'll get Cherry Evans in October, when he says he's available, we'll be in boots and all, and you don't get him, then there's been an opportunity cost to that. You might have let a player go, or you might have, didn't pick up another player that was available. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
AskGus, thanks to the Tab. The NRL season's here. For the best time in sport, Tab has the best app in sport. Tab, we're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Did you watch the Slipper on the weekend?
Yes, I did.
That horse, that was an emergency.
Yes. I wish it was going to hell.
Oh, why?
I backed the second horse about 6 months ago.
Oh, did you?
At a very big price.
Was that Woden?
Woden, yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
Can't win them all.
Second again.
Which two premiership sides from any era would you like to see clash in a grand final? Asks Lockie Hearn.
Which two
Teams, premiership winning teams from any era, would you like to see play in a grand final?
from any era?
Yeah.
Let's go with one of the great St George Dragons teams from the 60s up against the best team that Panthers could put on the field today.
They might be a bit older 60s blokes from the Dragons now.
There's a really good story over in America. They were talking about the great eras at the moment. Who's the gun NBL team at the moment?
NBA?
NBA team, yeah.
I'm going to give you a blank look.
But anyway, they're talking about
One of the bronze teams.
Yeah, and they asked Michael Jordan. He said, "How would your team from the LA from Chicago Bulls go against this team?" He said, we'd probably beat them by 2 or 4 points. He said, "Really, that close?" He said, "Yeah, we're all over 60."
It's so good. I watched a few clips of that Last Dance on YouTube. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
What about when Jordan talks? He gets emotional talking about how he was a hard ass and I was uncompromising and I wanted to win. And if you don't want to win as much as I want to win, then I don't want you on my team.
Phenomenal,
unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. I mean, a lot of this stuff is glorified, but for good reason. It's motivational, and it's
so motivational.
And you do get extraordinary people like him. I mean, you're talking about a country with 340 million people and the collegiate system and so many kids playing basketball in the streets and growing up wanting to be professional basketballers. And this guy is the greatest of all time. So it shows you how good he is, or how good he had to be what he was. And the way he's revered by other players, some of the greatest basketball players of all time, and all defer to him as the greatest of all time. It shows you how extraordinary he was. And we've got the same in our game. We've got some great players in our game and great players throughout history and some great teams. But if somehow you could, marry up the rules and marry up the eras and marry up that, to think in this era to have a team that's won 4 premierships in a row, and it could have easily been 5, and it might easily be 5 this year, and should have been 6, in this era is extraordinary. That rivals anything that great Dragons team did way back in the 60s, where they won 11 in a row or something or other. They said never before, never again. Well, if there was no salary cap today and the Panthers held on to all the players that they've had, look at all the players they've let go, they would be absolutely unbeatable at the moment. Absolutely unbeatable.
If there was no salary cap, the Roosters would have won the comp for the last 30 years.
Well, they tried.
Tamari Martin asks Darcy Finlayson, says, Tamari Martin's too good to be playing in the New South Wales Cup. If so, which club could benefit from his services? I don't know the Warriors want to let him go, but he's there at the moment.
Yeah, he is. They've got plenty of options in that position over there. Chanel Harris-Tavita and young Metcalf. I actually watched a bit of the New South Wales Cup game the other day. Tamari Martin scored the first couple of tries and clearly too good for reserve grade. The genuine NRL player is too good for New South Wales Cup. I mean, the New South Wales Cup and the quality of that competition, it's become very much a development grade. This year at Bulldogs, we'll be using it primarily for a lot of our younger players to get experience playing against open age football. Results won't matter to us. It'll be about just getting them time at the crease and developing future NRL players. It's the last testing ground. It's an important testing ground for NRL football. But the standard of New South Wales Cup football has dropped off appreciably over the decades compared to the NRL. The NRL is just so much a better level, and the gap is getting wider. Which is something we've got to look at. But Tamari Martin, when you put him in reserve grade, he's too good. He's too good for New South Wales Cup, and there are probably a number of clubs that could benefit from him at the moment. But the Warriors have got him, and they've got no reason to let him go. And if something was to happen to Metcalf or Chanel Harris-Tavita, they've got a ready-made replacement, and that's what a professional roster should look like. Like over in the NFL, they'll have 5 quarterbacks on their roster. And there's not a great deal between number 1 and number 5, or at least number 2 and number 5. Like Manchester United, how many goalkeepers have they got? How many strikers have they got? You've got to have your key positions. You've got to have depth. I think that's what a professional organisation should look like. I think our setup sometimes is quite amateurish for a professional game. We take a lot for granted, but professional football, I've seen over the years where we've had to play back rowers at halfback or 5'8", simply because we just don't have key members in that position. We should have I was pushing for a halves academy 30 years ago, saying that, the game needs to develop more of these because they're so vital for every team. So Tamare Martin would probably walk into a number of NRL teams at the moment and do a really good job. He's a quality kid, quality player.
Last question from Don. I like this question. I saw Satilli lay his warm-up shirt neatly on the floor in the locker room. Then the other players lined up to do the same. Is there any significance to this?
We're just helping the staff.
But there's a cultural element to that sort of stuff. It's like the All Blacks.
Yep.
The story where they clean the change room after they play a test.
Yeah, which, and because these things get publicised and because these things are written in books and because it becomes part of a successful organisation and whatever factor it plays in the development of their culture, what have you, because it's available and people read about it, it's now commonplace. It's now commonplace in a lot of organisations, sporting organisations, even workplaces. It's commonplace everywhere to keep your club tidy, your gym tidy, your dressing room tidy, your locker rooms tidy. It's
your teenage kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing you should do when you get out of bed is make your bed. It'll be there, even if you've had a bad day. It'll be there when you come home at night. So
even if your missus is in it?
Eh?
Pull the covers over her head. See you, love.
You come up with some very funny scenarios.
My missus was still in bed when I left this morning.
You're a funny game.
Yes.
Everything at rugby league. Matt Thompson's a funny game.
It's the nicest thing you've ever said about me. 6 tackles trivia. Oh, we've got a very special announcement coming up on the other side, so don't go anywhere. 6 tackle trivia. Which player has Daly Cherry Evans played alongside the most in his career? That's phase 1. Ooh. Phase 2, how many games have they played together?
Ooh.
Good question. Well done, Quizmaster Jordan. You've finally got a decent question. Some thinking music for Gus and our big announcement, plus a story I never thought we'd cover on this podcast on the other side.
Fans always ask, Lozza, what was the best era of league? And I tell them, nothing beats the line-breaking, flick-passing, goose-stepping, Vegas-flying, turbo-try-scoring, origin drought-breaking, simply the best era of footy we're in right now. And with more market stats and insights, it's easy to enjoy the best era in footy with the best app in footy.
Tab. We're on.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
DCE has played 330-something games for Manly.
Yep.
Which player has he played alongside the most in his career?
So long-serving Manly players. He's only ever played at Manly, long-serving Manly players. Who's the longest-serving Manly player outside of him? Are they retired or currently playing? I am looking at someone like, I don't think Foran was there long. Probably Jake Trbojevic.
He's too good. You're too good, Gussie.
Because neither of them have missed a lot of football. Like Daly hasn't missed a lot of football, and Jake hasn't missed a lot of football. Jake's played a lot of games. How many games has Jake played? Jake could be well over 200, I reckon.
Well, he is, because he and Cherry Evans have played 225 games together.
Have they really?
So I'd imagine Jake's played 225 games because Cherry Evans debuted before him.
Well, they would have played mostly. It'd be a fair percentage of his career.
Unless Cherry Evans, or he have missed some, of course. What about this? They've won 111. They've lost 111. And there's been 3 draws in between there. So Jake Trbojevic is the answer. Well done, Gus. Very good stuff.
Thank you.
The award-winning Stories of Origin podcast is back for its 4th season in 2025. It's the podcast where we delve into the rich history and the unforgettable moments of State of Origin football told by the people who lived through them. This year, we are doing magical Origin moments, and the interesting element is that you get the chance to vote on which episodes we cover. So we're going to have 3 magic moments before 2000 and 3 moments post 2000. That's going to make up the series. So on the socials, you can vote for which of these magic moments we're going to cover as episodes. So a bit of audience input. So here's the nominations, Gus, for the pre-2000 magic moments, okay?
What, magic moments?
Yeah.
Just don't put the Mark Coyne try in there.
Mark Coyne try. Nomination number 1. Fatty's Neville's That's another one you probably don't want to hear much about. Arthur Beetson's impact. Well, so particularly the moment he ran on the field for the first ever time, which sort of set the boundaries for the Origin tradition. MGV Wally. And Steve Mortimer being chaired off the field as a winning captain for New South Wales. You'd have some stories about the MG Wally one. Didn't they pick him? Didn't they pick him and tell him to go out there and basically give it to him?
New South Wales had to win,
Yeah.
and they needed him to play well, and they needed an enforcer.
Did he get suspended for 6 weeks or something?
Yeah, for Penrith.
Yeah,
Not for New South Wales. He got
that's
suspended
right.
for Penrith. The true story is New South Wales Rugby League rang me because they needed to win that game and said, can you just make sure MG's on his game tonight? I rang him the day of the game. I said, mate, they need you tonight. Didn't mean for him to go out and wipe out
The king.
38 human beings.
Face off with the king.
I then had to go down to the judiciary next week and defend him. He should have got life. I think he got 6 weeks. We were without him for 6 weeks. What year was that?
91.
91. We went on and won the comp.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, MG, mate, they need you tonight, brother.
They got him.
He said, I was sitting in the rain watching. I was sitting out there watching it. And,
Was the blood draining from your face?
No. Footballers are very courageous people. They're very, very brave. Footballers feel fear, but they go anyway. They run towards their fears. But he was creating a lot of fear in that Queensland team that night. He was awesome.
Did New South Wales win that game?
They did. That was the Michael O'Connor kick from the sideline.
Oh, was that night?
Which is one of the great moments.
That is one of the great moments.
Yeah, it was in the rain, so they had a couple of great moments that night. But 2 nights later, I'm down at Phillip Street defending my front. He's not even playing for Penrith.
How do you defend the indefensible?
Well,
what did you do? What did you say?
I went down to defend Peter Kelly one night, the judiciary chairman. He said, Mr. Kelly, he said, we've looked at this video 10 times. He said, you keep saying you didn't hit him in the head. Peter Kelly said, I didn't hit him in the head. He said, well, how can you be sure you didn't hit him in the head? He said, makes a different sound when you hit him in the head. 6 weeks. Makes a different sound when you hit him in the head.
Perry Mason Gould. I wonder what your judiciary record's like as a defence counsel. Geez, you've had some tough tasks. Who else did you have to go and defend? And why'd you do it? Didn't you get a lawyer?
There was no lawyers in those days. It was usually done in the bar downstairs. Just a couple of beers in the very old days.
Oh,
yeah.
Too good.
I never had to go and defend myself.
No?
No.
You never got cited?
Never got sent off, never got cited.
Oh, there you go. So you played in true spirit of the game, Gus.
True
Which came
spirit
up
of the
again
game.
at the weekend.
Yes. No impersonating referees.
Hold your beer. Head to our socials. Leave a comment with your favourite moment out of that short list there. So we'll do 3 episodes of those magic moments for season 2025. Season 4 feels like season 450 of the award-winning Stories of Origin podcast.
It's a little bit funny.
It's a funny thing with this competition. If people are on drugs.
This is something I never thought that I'd cover in my life in rugby league. South Sydney mascot Charlie Gallico apologises for incident at Sharks Stadium. I've seen it all now.
Yeah.
Reggie the Rabbit has accepted full responsibility for his...
Poor Reggie.
What was Reggie thinking?
Oh, Reggie.
He pushed a 9-year-old kid. It's not funny, but it kind of is. So his mum complained, and Reggie, Mr. Gallico issued the following public apology.
Poor old Reggie.
I'd like to apologise to young Benji and his parents. My actions were wrong. I should never have pushed Benji or any child for that matter.
When I first started in an administrative role at Panthers, and your job was a lot of things. It wasn't just the football and all that. And game day, I decided that I would go and sit on the hill behind the post to get an idea of the game day experience for fans. What they do. you learn some interesting stuff. There are a lot of funny people sitting in the crowd. There are a lot of hilarious comments sitting in it. Not all you could publish, but there are a lot of hilarious things you hear in the crowd, and the family atmosphere on a hill, sitting behind the grandstand, and you got to remember that, a lot of the players up the other end of the field. It's way up the other end of the field. And I can tell you, for the family people sitting on the hill with their kids and they got their snack box or they're getting food or whatever, that sort of thing. When the play's way up the other end of the field, it's very hard to see. Right? And a lot of them aren't watching the football. They're talking amongst themselves, or they're having something to eat, or they're watching the kids. And then when the play comes down their sin, that's when they start giving it to the referee and giving it to the players and starting to get cheery in the action. It's kind of like it's a funny sort of environment. Like the people who sit behind the posts at the footy at the Crowns on the hill are there for the enjoyment of the atmosphere and being out and with the family and all that sort of thing. There is a real family entertainment element to it where the football is on, but it's not necessarily the focus of while they're there. And for the kids will be running around having their own touch football game, or they'll be running around, or they've got their their hot dog or whatever that they want to eat, or they're looking at the big screen TV, or they're waiting for the ball to be kicked up on the hill so they can all go and chase it, and they're all getting 10. But the big thing that attracts the kids is when the mascots come around the fence.
No, not anymore.
When the mascots come around the fence. And we decided we needed more mascots because the poor old Panther was getting inundated with all these people. So
that's why he got Paws and his mate.
We had all these, and we had different sort of mascots, and we had sponsors sponsoring different sort of mascots. We had all these sort of blow-up toy mascots walking around the field because it entertained the kids. The kids aren't actually watching the football.
So hang on,
the kids aren't actually watching.
You're running a rugby league club, and one of your big decisions was to get more mascots.
More mascots. We needed more mascots to entertain the kids because the kids loved it. The kids loved the bangers. They love the signs. You can
keep the bangers.
The kids are there for a different reason. The kids don't care who wins or loses. Mum and Dad do. But the kids, it's a different attraction. Like we had a over in the corner, we had the kids section with all the jumping castles and all that. They were all over there during the game. They weren't watching the football.
It's because you weren't winning back then.
But the kids up on that northern hill, right, during the game, they got most excited when the mascots, not when the football come up this end, or if someone had a kick and goal from in front of the post and the ball was going to land on the hill, they all wanted to catch the ball and run off with the ball. And, the kids are there for a different, it's a night out with the family. It's part of the family fabric. It's and as they grow older, they become more interested in the game, what have you. But there are a lot of people at the football that they're there because of the occasion and the colour and the crowd and the excitement and the music and everything else that goes along with it. And the kids got most excited, the younger kids got most excited when the mascots came around. The mascots came. And then they got excited at the end of the game when the players went around and the players got a photo with them or the players got an autograph or whatever. Like the little players gave away their jersey or their boots or their headgear and all. That's for the kids, the crowd interaction. It's a funny game, rugby league. They're not there for the footy. Well, a lot of the kids.
Can I read you the funniest part of this statement?
And it's the kids that drag the parents along.
Yeah.
You got the other kids there that just obsessed by football and love it. Well, they're probably sitting in the side grandstands or they're sitting down, so they can get a sniff of the liniment and they can watch the action and get close to their star player. But for a lot of the kids that go there, it's the entertainment, it's the jumping castle, it's the hot dog, it's the T-shirt, it's the buy a jersey, it's Dad, get me one of them banger things, Dad, get me a card. I want to catch the football. We can play touch football on the hill, we can,
So further to Reggie's statement, I realised Reggie the Rabbit is a children's character and my actions were not right. But you ready for this? After going through the video, he's gone to the match review committee.
I should have gone and defended him.
I now realise I was in the wrong.
Should have gone and defended him. He's a champion, Reggie.
He's gone through the video.
He's 80-odd years of age.
I know. They've sat him down and showed him the video.
He's 80-odd years of age.
I was thinking on the way in here, maybe we could do Bad Rabbit. Like a Stephen King style one where his eyes go red and he goes into the opposition change room and becomes possessed.
We used to do a show called Boots and All, Vossi and I. Vossi used to get some of the most ridiculous things on tape. He'd find different. He'd sit in the Channel 9 archives all summer and he'd come up with the most ridiculous things on tape. And a lot of it was around mascots. Mascot race. Kids love the mascot race. Kids love when they walk into the ground. If you've got it's a bit like going to Disneyland. You go to Disneyland and all the Disneyland characters are meeting you inside the gate and doing a parade and all that sort of thing. We'd have a parade of the mascots. So we'd have, the girls all dressed up, greeting the people as they came in the gates and the kids. And, look, it's
riveting.
When you're a kid, life is about fairy floss and characters and colour and everything like that. And that's the lure to get them in. It has to be an event. It has to be exciting, and that gets them along. And then eventually maybe the footy rubs up on them, and that's what they remember, running on the field after the game. Running on the field and having a kick of the ball after the game is more interesting to them than the football. That's the memories that you create. Running on the field to steal the corner post, just running on the field after the game is the highlight for a lot of the kids that go there.
Did you ever have any issues with your mascots?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, not everything's for the press, baby.
Oh, there's been secret issues with the mascots.
There was a lot of jealousy between mascots too.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What they were vying to wear a particular mascot outfit.
It's a whole new world.
Oh,
it's a whole
that's
new
a world
world.
I don't really want to explore, to be honest.
Whole new world. On the very, very hot days, it was very hard for them. Very, very, very hard for them. Funny game, rugby league. Funny game up on the hill. Go up on the hill. If you want an afternoon of absolute entertainment, of great Australian banter, of some of the funniest things you'll ever hear about football are on the hill.
Yeah, there are some wags up there.
And that's why they love suburban grounds. I guess it's part of the culture of our game and part of the heritage of our game. That out there with the genuine footy fan.
Anyway, Charlie's gone to the match review panel and apologised, and he's going to be in action tomorrow night.
How many demerit points did he get?
Oh, that's double demerits, that one. Round 4. Let's have Panthers, Rabbitohs. Well, Rabbitohs, Panthers, I should say. That's at a core. It's Thursday night footy, and you'll see it live and free on 9. South Sydney's greatest try scorer, Alex Johnson, returns from the Achilles injury that sidelined him since round 21 last year. That's a pretty quick turnaround, actually.
Yep.
So he's back in the team, and obviously on that left wing, he's a massive boost for them. Isaiah Tass goes to the centres with Campbell.
That'll be an
out.
extraordinary record when it's broken.
Well, he's not far away now. He's about 190.
Well, before he got this in, I think I wrote 2 years ago, I said he'll score 240, which is well above the record. But this injury has obviously taken a fair bit of time out of him. And with any team with Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell, if you're playing on the left wing, he had a year out years ago, and Robert Jennings scored 20 tries.
He did too.
Playing in that position.
There's changes for the Panthers. Now, very interesting that Trent Talau has been named at number 7 to take over from Nathan Cleary, not Brad Schneider.
Good kid.
Dane Laurie's back from a quad injury and plays at fullback. So Tom Jenkins, who did a great job in his first ever game at fullback last week, moves to the centres. Alamotti to the wing, and they've left Casey McLean out of the team this week.
Yep.
So South Sydney versus the Panthers at a quarter tomorrow night. I've got something just telling me this is going to be really close.
Well, I'm sure Wayne Bennett will have a plan, and I'm sure South Sydney will be competitive. The betting market, I think, is slightly wrong. I reckon if you played this game 3 times, South would win once. So, look, I'm going to tip Panthers. I think they'll be too strong in the end, but I will not be surprised if South Sydney run them right to the end. And
so you're saying for every 3 times they played, South should win it once?
I think if they played this game 3 times, South Sydney would find a way to win once. Which gives them a 2-1 chance.
Yeah.
Right?
And the odds are much more inflated than that.
Yeah, well, they're probably 3-1. But, that's just mathematics. But I think Rabbitohs have got a genuine chance of an upset as Panthers find their feet with these new combinations and, their fullback's not playing, their halfback's not playing. That's a big thing. You've got a rookie playing halfback, you've got a rookie playing 5'8". Dane Laurie's now back at fullback, but he's recovering from injury. He might not play yet. So they've got their challenges, and South Sydney have been more than competitive in their games. I thought their second half fight back against the Sharks last week, a top 4 side, had plenty of merit, plenty of credibility. It is Wayne Bennett. I'll tip Panther, but I think it'll be a great Thursday night game.
Early game Friday, 6 o'clock, Allianz, Roosters versus Titans travelling to Sydney. Connor Watson's out for the Roosters because of concussion, so Zach Docker-Clay is going to play at hooker, while Nat Butcher and Lindsay Collins have both been named to return from injury on the bench. Now for the Gold Coast, big blow, Keanu Kenny is gone, so Jalen de Groot, who debuted at the end of last year, is going to play at fullback. Kenny's actually seeing a specialist with regards to a neck problem this week.
Yeah.
And Khan Pereira still out with a hammy, and Jamin Jolliffe still out with a calf.
Yep.
They based their win on defence last week, the Gold Coast.
Well, they defended much better, didn't they? They still scored plenty of points too. I'm telling you, this Titans team is a good team. I like it, and I like the potential for them. Their challenge now is to win away from home. It's just another challenge for them. I was a bit disappointed in the Roosters last week. I thought that they could go to New Zealand and beat the Warriors. They did lead 6-0, but the Warriors were just a bit too strong for them in the end. Look, I don't think there's much in this at all. It's probably easier to go with the home side, but there is something about this Titans team that scares me as an opposition, an opponent.
You know who was terrific for them last week? Tino and Fafita off the bench played much bigger minutes, and they both were awesome.
Tino is a hell of a player. He's a hell of a player. Hell of a player. You know, there are still rookies in this Roosters team. There is nothing in this whatsoever. I'm going to tip Titan.
Titan? Titan to win at Allianz?
I think if it comes down to a shootout, I think Titan have got more points in them.
Okay. Gus sticking solid with his favourite
And young
team.
de Groot's a very good young player.
Good player?
Yeah, very quick.
Okay. So he's a bit of like for Keeney.
Different,
Yeah.
but quick.
Okay.
He's he's got points in him.
Titan.
Yeah, I'm on the Titan bandwagon.
Friday night footy from Suncorp Stadium. My goodness, this is a big night for the Dolphins. So Christian Wolf sticks with the same 17 as the Dolphins look for their first win of the year. Now, they've got a shocking run coming up. They play Melbourne and Penrith. I think they've got the Gold Coast next week, then Melbourne, Penrith. If they don't win soon, their season could be gone after 6 weeks. They got Bostock and Finafuiaki back last week from injury, and they remain in the team. Katoni Staggs comes back. He's been out with a quad. Dean Mariner makes way. Hang on. He's dropped him.
Yeah, Mariner's out. He kept Shibasaki.
There you have it. Dean Mariner's out of the team. Wow. Anyhow, that's the way things line up for both teams. It's getting desperate for the Dolphins.
It is. You've got to respect the local derby and the fact that they've always played well against the Bronco. But I'm going to tip Bronco. It's an away game for Bronco on their home ground.
Yep, if that makes sense. 3 o'clock, Cogra, Dragons Storm. So Shane Flanagan said he's going to give his team an absolute hammering throughout the bye week. So wonder if there's a response. Toby Couchman comes to the starting team. David Clemmer makes a club debut off the bench. Young back rower Dylan Egan joins the interchange bench for his NRL debut. Blake Laurie and Raymond Fatalo Mariners to the reserve, so he's not hesitating to give some of these younger players an opportunity. Moses Sully comes into the team, despite suffering a rib injury in round 2. So the big changes are for Melbourne, though. Tyron Wishart's going to play halfback with Jerome Hughes out because of that hand problem. He broke his hand, actually, and he's had surgery. Grant Anderson to the centres because Nick Meaney broke his jaw on Nelson's head. They get Warbrick back on the wing, and Nelson, after breaking Nick Meaney's jaw, is out because of concussion. Bronson Garlick comes in at 14. So he's one of the premier halfbacks in the game, Jerome Hughes, but Tyron Wishart has shown he is a more than capable replacement.
He is. He's a ball runner. He's not so much a playmaker, but he's wholehearted. Melbourne will rely on just the fitness and the speed of their game, and that can trouble the Dragons. The Dragons did beat them last year, didn't they? Down in Melbourne. They beat them. And they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this. The coach did say he was going to give them 12 days of hell. He had all off-season to do that, but he's decided he wanted to do that during the bye. What effect that'll have, we don't know. I think, again, the market here is over-exaggerating Melbourne. I think Dragons have got more of a chance than the betting markets are giving them at the moment. And I'm just looking at here. Could I predict an upset? Probably not. Probably not. The safer thing is to tip Melbourne because that's what everyone else will do. But danger game for them. I think Dragons will fancy their chances of an upset for sure.
Apparently everyone wins one, everyone loses one in the early season.
Well, that's what happens. That's what happens.
Melbourne haven't lost one yet.
Yeah, and Dragons haven't won one. Yeah. I think the same thing. I think if you played this 3 times, Dragons would win once. It's just whether or not this is the day. I'm going to tip Dragon to open their account.
Oh, this is gold. Upsets. Upsets from Gus. Now, whatever we said about the Dolphins, you can repeat it for the Cowboys. They host the Raiders 5:30 Saturday at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, and my God, they have to win. Zach Labert, good young player in the reserves. He's back from an ACL from last year. He's been playing in the Queensland Cup. Outside of that, Todd Payton has the same 17, but Labert could come in. Joseph Tarpanay returns from suspension. Horsburgh goes to lock. Mooney to the bench. Morgan Smithies is out because of concussion. Things got out of hand for Canberra last week. Well, Sunday night.
That was a bizarre game. That was absolutely bizarre. You know, the first 20 minutes, Manly had all the ball on the back of a stack of 6 agains and different things. Manly had all the ball down on the Raiders' line. And I said the Raiders are fit and they're fast, and they were. They defended so well. They were great.
And scored the first try.
And then finally got some possession and scored a great try from halfway. Enter the bunker, and we get a penalty for obstruction.
Oh, that's right. There was obstruction.
So they scored the try. So that actually withstood all the pressure and scored the first try, and we're going to lead 6-0. From that penalty, Manly kicked out, came down. Horsburgh got sin bin, and the next 10 minutes went like a whirlwind, and they were down 24-0. You know, I think it would have been very, very frustrating for the Canberra Raiders what happened in that game. And they're not a bad team on the road. I think that they're probably. I just like their fitness and their speed at the moment, and I think they'll be really smarting after what happened last week. I think that scoreline is a misnomer. I think it's a no indication of what their early effort was in that game, and I think they were really, really, really unlucky in some of the events of that game. I'm going to tip Raider on the road to beat Cowboy.
Jeez, he's putting them out there this week. I love it. So the Dogs head to play the Sharkies down in the Shire on Saturday night. Oh, geez, the Bermuda Triangle. Hope you get back to Belmore.
Bermuda Triangle.
Saturday night down in the Shire.
Buses have disappeared down there. Teams have disappeared.
You might get the train. Maybe it's a better option.
Go to Shark Park and never come home.
Tommy Hazelton's back from a back injury. He's on the bench. And Hammond Uele goes out of the team because of a knee problem. Same 17 so far for the Bulldogs. Bailey Haywood stays in the 6. He's a good young player. And you've just re-signed him, I noticed.
Just extended him for another year, yep.
Good on you.
Yep. Good kid. Local junior. Local junior.
So that's the way that stacks up for Saturday night. Sharks heavily favoured in the markets, but we'll see whether that is the case on the field. Sunday footy, the old battle from decades ago. Manly and Parrot, Brookie. Well, they'll be keen to get back on the field, I'd imagine, and put all this off-field talk behind them this week, the Manly side. Turbo's back. That's always a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
They've lost Paseka, though. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's an Achilles. I didn't... Oh, he's done his Achilles. Ooh, yuck.
It's a nasty one.
2 changes for Para. Sean Russell comes back. They've left Sam Runny out, and Daniel Keir comes into the team to replace Sam Tuavati. Manly heavily favoured at home.
Yes, and I think they'll win quite comfortably.
Sunday night footy. We've had some good Sunday night games, actually.
Great game, this one.
West Tigers versus Warriors at Campbelltown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you nailed the Tigers last week. Geez, they were impressive.
Yeah, they're good.
They were really impressive. Mature.
What I like, the 2 things I like the fact that they're, well, after 3 rounds, they're the best defensive team in the competition. There's been a real focus on their defence. Most people would have thought with Luai and these players going there, that'll be their attack that's going to be the standout. They've actually dedicated themselves to the hardest part of the game, which is defence. They're defending well. Why are they defending well? The key to their good defence, and this is where I'm an old-fashioned coach, I think the key to great defence is controlling the ball in attack, controlling where the opposition get the ball. And I think that's what Jerome Luai has brought. He understands that the combinations probably won't work straight away, that whilst he's got great spine, they're very inexperienced. I think that he and Coruscant are giving the team real control. The Taylor De Silva and the Lachlan Galvins and the Dream Bullers are such young players, but they've reined them in a little bit, and what they're making sure is that they're controlling the ball, they're completing their sets of 6, they're kicking it down, all the boring stuff you hear people say at halftime when they're interviewed. Hate the halftime interview. But all the boring stuff, Tigers are doing well. They're doing the boring stuff well. They're not trying to be flamboyant, and he keeps them, even if they're a little bit behind or a little bit front, even if they're not attacking the way they want to attack, Jerome Luai has got them very patient, and they're just building their game over a period of time. And, defence is a hell of a lot easier at the other end of the field. And that's why they're defending really well, because they're giving the ball back to the opposition at the other end of the field. Jerome Luai has them controlled. Now, the attacking prowess will come. They wore Parramatta down and put some points on them. And, again, last week, I just think that's where they're getting it right. The Warrior didn't handle their Las Vegas trip too well at all, then played 2 games at home, and they've beaten the Rooster and beaten Manly, which is pretty good form. And I see that Tigers are favourites. Now, can Tigers perform when they're favourites? That's going to be the next challenge for them, the weight of expectation. It is at Campbelltown. Can Warriors win away from home? They've won their 2 home games, but their away game was pretty poor. I don't think there's much between them in this. Again, I've tipped Tiger to make the 8, and these are the games Tiger need to win. Home games against opposition of similar quality. I think that Coruscant and Jerome Luai will control it well enough that they'll accumulate the points to win. So I'm going to go Panther to beat Rabbit.
Upset round.
I'm going to tip Panther to beat Rabbit, but I won't be surprised if Rabbit competes. I'm going to tip Titan to beat Rooster. I think this is the next challenge for the Titans, to win away from home against a quality side, and I think they can do it. I think the confidence from last week will be great for them, and I love Tino. I just think he's going so well. He can be dominant for them. Bronco and Dolphin, local derby, but I don't think that'll be enough. I think Bronco will prove too good. I think Dragon have got a genuine chance of beating the Storm. I think, this is one the Storm can lose, as this is one that Dragon can win, where they're playing at home.
Cogra.
At Jubilee, the Red V at Jubilee. Yeah, I'm tipping Dragon to beat them. I'm tipping Raider on the road against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have still got a ways to go. They were improved against the Broncos, but I think the Raiders, their fitness and their speed just could overwhelm them a little bit. I'm looking at Sea Eagle having a comfortable win against the Eel, and what did I say? Tiger to beat Warrior. Yeah, Tiger to beat Warrior. So that's the tips for this week.
Thank you, Gus.
More mascots. You need more mascots at the footy if you want the kids to come.
That's right. Reggie's issued his apology and all's been forgiven. See you next week.
Poor old Reggie.
That's 6 Tackles with Gus. Enjoy the footy Thursday, Friday, Sunday here on 9, and we look forward to your company next Wednesday.